Okay, enough of that. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tom's Guitar Show. I'm Tom. They call me Guitar Tom because I'm off the scene with the guitar. And they call me on the phone. They say, "Hey, man." No, they used to call me on the phone when we had a call-in show. They'd say, "Hey, man, what's your show about?" I'd say, "Oh, it's about an hour. About guitar players, guitar playing, all things guitaristic." But it's not a call-in show anymore, so you can always tweet me or something, or entertain questions here about guitars, guitar playing, all things guitaristic, how to play a guitar, what kind of guitar is right for you, the care and feeding of your guitar, basic repairs, chord theory, things like that. Related topics, we got the, guitarras, sitars, chitoles, lutes, vihuelas, banjos, balalaikas, bazookies, bajos, sextos, bajos, cincos, tiples, cavaquinhos, ukuleles and banjolines and banjolins and mandolins and mandolas and mandoras, mandocellos, trombones, trombomarinas, harmoniums, harpsichords, harmonicas, pipe organs, piccolos, timbales and timpani, tubas, I don't know, man, saxophones and sack butts. I don't know, anyway. Anything musical, politics, world events, people's personality problems, but keep it clean. It's a family show. It's just, they got to tell you, these Oshkosh Bagosh overalls are kind of comfortable. I'm wearing the Iowa uniform here. I'm looking like a real Iowan. Like I was telling them, possibly bored Erin out front, our reception, like the first person you run into when you come in here. I was telling her that I wasn't actually born in Iowa, but I moved here as an infant. And so, I mean, I'm born in Montana, so who cares? Anyway, but, when you're there, if you're someplace else like New York City, Manhattan, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Paris, France, wearing the overalls is kind of like, it's almost a statement, like what sort of statement does this make? Like, I'm out of my mind? I just don't care? But anyway, this is sort of the Iowa uniform. Of course, I'm, wearing a nice felt hat, but anyway, so and I just want to, I'm thinking about this concept, and I want to, I think I'm going to teach actually a seminar at West Music at the end of next month. Sorry, the last Thursday of April, because as everybody knows, April is National Guitar Month, and so I spring into action, so I'll be, but there's this concept that we've had around my house anyway, what I would call overall guitar. It doesn't mean you have to wear overalls when you play the guitar, but what it means is like, in my mind, there's this notion, okay, if you really want to learn how to play the guitar, you learn what a classical guitarist knows about technique and reading music and analyzing, and of course pre-planning your, like fingering things in such a way that you can get around better. Like you plan what you're doing. So that, the technique and stuff like that, and reading and all that stuff, and planning. Classical guitarists, and then jazz guitar players, they know a lot about theory. Because if you're strictly a classical guitar player and you don't do your own arranging, you don't have to know anything about music theory. You just have to know, how to play the notes that are on the page. If you're a jazz guitar player, then normally you're supposed to like make up your own guitar part in real time, improvise, and deal with bizarre things. Sometimes, so. Personally, I want to know both those things, plus I want to know what a folk guitar player knows about like playing by ear and fitting in and stuff like that, and country and blues and stuff, which should also kind of come under the folk heading. But that's what I call overall guitar. So in a sense, I'm wearing my, I wouldn't call it personal philosophy, but by the way, I know this isn't really germane to the point, but I'm trying to straighten myself out here. Years ago when I was applying to be on the Iowa Arts Council roster of touring musicians and people doing artist in residence programs in schools, which I did. We're talking a long time ago, in the 90s. They had this one thing, describe your personal philosophy. I was thinking, that's not a question you're going to want to ask a guy like me. Besides, they didn't give me that much room to fill it out in. And because mine would either be really short or really long, and probably somewhat satirical. But anyway, so I guess my personal philosophy as a guitar player is this sort of concept of overall guitar. So I'm wearing overalls. Okay, and and a nice hat. Okay, and then because I'm wearing these overalls, there's this ever so slightly beat up already DBZ Imperial. And I don't know how old this guitar is. I've had it for quite some time now. It's my first DBZ guitar of my DBZ collection. I think it was anyway. And so it's, and DBZs are no longer being made. They're diamond guitars, and they're actually phasing out, I guess, as far as I can tell. But anyway, so this is a DBZ Imperial I've had for a while, and I'm not so worried about maybe scratching it ever so slightly on the back with my metal buckles. But it actually makes a pretty good, I guess it's a rock guitar, but it makes a pretty good jazz guitar, I think. And if I bend notes, it goes out of tune. Well, see, Donna has joined us.
Hello, Tom. Hello,
Hi.
everybody.
Donna. We'll put a camera over there on her in any second now. So I was going to ask you a question. Is there any chance you left your snark tuner over on my music stand?
I don't think I think I have mine at home.
Okay, somehow I have one more,
Wow.
and I thought it was Ed's, but Ed said he was staring right at his when he called me back, and it had a really weak battery in it. I put a new battery in it. I thought I was doing him a favor.
Oh, yeah, remember? Yes.
Yeah.
You know, as far as I know, I have a snark because I've been using it.
Oh yeah, well see, if you've been using it since the last time you were like in front of my music stand,
Yeah.
because it was hooked onto my music stand.
Huh.
Hmm.
Somebody will fess up.
Yeah. Well, I put it somewhere, safe, but with a brand new battery in it. It's nice. Oh, lights up real bright.
All right.
Thought about bringing it along because I was sure it was yours, but now I doubt it. So I'm doubting myself. So, but since we've come this far, I was telling everybody about my overall guitar. It's Laura's thing. It's like overall guitar
Yes.
because she took some publicity shots of me wearing overalls.
Oh.
But of course, I'm wearing the a nice felt hat and everything. So this is like an Iowa thing, but it's also the idea of knowing what a classical guitarist knows and what a jazz guitar player knows, and also what the folk and blues guitar players know.
Right.
And so that's your overall thing. So if you do that, then you can play whatever you want. Is my hypothesis. I don't have enough data to have it to rise to the level of being a theory, but it's my hypothesis.
I think it's a great theory.
So I'm wearing overalls, but since we got you here, I was going to ask you. So I had Mia, the young bass player, high schoolist. You've seen her. I was working with her about doing a jam. Because she's a bass player, and you're going like. Anyway, she would do that, only an octave lower because she's playing the bass guitar, and I would play right along with her, then I'd go. And then anybody want to? So this is in our Tom's Guitar Show upstairs in was it 2 weeks?
Right.
With a female cast of thousands, except I guess I won't qualify, but it is my show, so.
We'll let you in.
Yeah, okay. So, but I was thinking maybe we could get some people that maybe could play along with that. I mean, what do you think?
I'd love to jam with her.
Okay, all right. It's just a slow 12-bar. I mean, the notes are fast, but the count's really slow.
Right.
12-bar blues, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, That'd be my guitar part.
What key will it be in?
That's an A.
Okay.
A, D, E.
I can figure out.
Bye. Anyway, sorry. I was having fun. I'm not here for fun. I'm here for Tom's Guitar Show. Anyway, I thought we'd do that. Maybe we can get some people up there. I'm trying to get. Actually, if there's anybody out there who's a female person anywhere connected with anything related to a guitar, we're talking ukuleles, bass guitars, mandolins. I'd even go so far as banjoists.
Yay.
So you play banjo. You're a banjoist also. Yeah. So actually, I was talking to somebody at the Hy-Vee. We're talking. I was explaining my guitar acquisition syndrome because I sold a bunch of guitars and I was feeling virtuous, but now I'm getting to the point where these other guitars are coming around, and I don't have any way to pay for them right away, but maybe I could make money later or something like that. So I'm getting this twitchy for some other guitars I really like, you see. And none of them are in stock anywhere, but they're coming, and I just hope they don't come too soon. I mean, if one comes, you know, in 2 months, and then another one 2 months later, and then maybe, you know. But if they all come at once, then I don't know what I'm going to do in my life. So I was describing this problem with somebody. This was right after I left West Music,
Right?
and I was at Hy-Vee buying some groceries, and then so I was talking to a guy that I vaguely knew in the parking lot, and he said that he had to quit heroin. So he was addicted to heroin, and of course once you're addicted to heroin, you're like always addicted to heroin, even if you haven't done any heroin for like 10, 20 years. And that's one thing and I was thinking, well, you know, and that just gives me so much hope for myself, because at least it's not
Guitars aren't bad.
heroin, yeah.
Yeah, it's not heroin, so
Yeah, yeah.
guitars are good.
But because see, I'm twitching. I'm kind of jonesing for a new guitar. So,
It's okay.
so
How many do you own?
I don't know how many guitars I have. It's around 80 or so. I think I used to have like almost 90, but I'm down in the 80s somewhere because I parted with about 5 of them.
I really enjoyed that one you had last week.
Oh yeah, the blue one,
Well, it was turquoise.
turquoise. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's on a stand, right, ready to go at home. It's one of my favorite ones. It's between that one and the one that's just like this, only it's hollow. It's also really this is super thin. This is an older, it's a really super thin guitar, but the hollow one is not. It's almost as thin, and it's a Diamond Imperial hollow body. But the one that I played last week was a turquoise Reverend Manta Ray, and I don't know which one is. You know, I prefer, I suppose, the Manta Ray maybe, but I don't know.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
That's okay, yeah. I'm just talking about guitar. That's what it's. I just babble on guitar, so. And ukuleles and banjos,
Yes.
balalaikas, bazookies. I don't have one. Balalaika or bazooki. I've never actually played a balalaika. I held a balalaika once. It was terribly out of tune and the strings were rusty. And I still don't really know how to tune a bell. I don't know how, I mean, yeah. If I knew what the notes were, I'm sure I could tune one. But you know, it's 3 strings.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know what they are. I could guess, but I hate it when people do that, you know. So,
Yeah. I couldn't, I didn't know how to tune the baritone because it's tuned like a guitar, the
Right.
top,
Uh-huh.
the top voicing strings anyways. So I had it tuned like the soprano, and it was horrible.
oh boy, yeah.
So,
Well, you have to know these things. And really, in my mind, because I'm that picky about tunings, to me, a soprano ukulele is tuned a whole step higher than a concert.
oh,
So the first string is a B instead of an A.
right.
And also, there are a lot of like stuff from the 20s and 30s, ukulele music, where they're tuned to a B flat. So it's like halfway in music. It's like guitar at this like right there. So this is a concert, and to me a tenor is right, and a soprano's right. But then there's also a B flat tuning for the ukulele, because if you're playing, those darn horn players, they like B flat.
Right.
So if you got a clarinet player and a sax player, a trumpeter, or whatever, and you're in a band, they're going to want to play those keys.
Oh.
And that's all right and everything, but it sure is more convenient if you play what we call a C instrument, like the guitar, the ukulele, or the banjo or something, to be playing, you know, in keys like, you know, G and C and D. But being B flat is a drag.
B flat's tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're tuned to B flat, then, you know, I mean, it's just but it's too confusing for me. And I know I'm just talking too much. I should be playing guitar, but Chris, you know, the guy runs a studio program at West Music.
Yes.
He, I mean, I don't know what he's going through in life, you know, but he hauled off and bought himself a used accordion. Yeah, he's a guitar player, you know, that's how
Right.
he came up, you know, he's managing the lesson program, but he was, you know, he's a longtime guitar teacher. And
Wow.
so he bought an accordion, which he knew nothing about. He has no idea how those buttons work,
Wow.
and he's trying to work it out.
Wow.
So he's picking that up. And I don't think I actually have, I don't think I have it in me to start something completely different.
No, I don't want to.
Yeah, no.
I'm
many
happy
years?
with, let's see, both the banjo is a Chicago tuning.
Right,
and
so it's the same as a baritone uke.
So it's the same string, so I'm not really learning anything
Right.
totally new.
And your smaller ukuleles are just the just like putting a capo on your baritone ukulele, so
Right.
it's just a matter of, the same fingering, different, it's one fingering system. Now, I do 3 fingering systems. So I do fourths, and that's guitar, ukulele, and like string bass and bass guitar. I do fifths, and that's mandolin, tenor, banjo, my Irish tenor, whatever, violin, cello, whatever, like that. And then I do open G, which is like a bluegrass banjo, and like slack key guitar, there are many open tunings in the guitar, but I basically gravitate toward open G, which I also use in my lap steel, my power slide,
Okay.
my electric lap steel guitar, and so that's so it's banjo, like 12-string guitar and open G tuning or open F tuning, but then it's just transposing. It's one fingering system. So I do 3 fingering systems, and I think my brain is calcified to the point where I don't want to add anything new.
No.
Even the Venezuelan cuatro with a re-entrant tuning, as long as I don't get freaked out by it, I just do the same fingerings I do it on a low G tenor uke, and even though I'm in the wrong octave in the register, it's the same thing, so I'm cool.
Right.
You see. So
Is the bass is different too.
the bass is the same as the lower 4 strings in a guitar, an octave lower.
Okay.
String bass and bass guitar are the same.
Ah.
Yeah. So it's all one fingering system. I mean, you behave differently on a bass guitar than you do on a guitar, and you behave somewhat differently on a string bass than you do on a bass guitar. And these distinctions are not lost on me. But the thing about like playing a bunch of different fretted instruments and then maybe playing piano and then the trumpet or something or the trombone, that's like a bridge too far. And I know there are people, I know I've met people who play like the string bass, the bass guitar, and the tuba.
Wow.
And that it's the same thing, but it's different ways to get to those notes. So I'll say so I play the string bass. I grew up on the string bass, and I play bass guitar. I still play both of these things to this day. But on a bass guitar, I might use my 3rd finger for this, like that. I use my 1st finger, my 3rd finger. But on a string bass, I use my 4th finger. Like that. So anyway, it's different because it's bigger. You have to stand next to it.
Right.
You can't just strap. And I will say the bass guitars are an awful lot easier to get into a sedan than the string bass, because then you have to hang the scroll out the window, and you don't want to cut it too close, when you're.
Where would you like me?
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, it's not near as heavy either.
No. But the amp, of course. But of course, if you want to play a string bass in a band, a lot of times you're going to need to take an amp anyway. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to. Anyway.
How many years you been playing, sir?
Oh man, I don't know. Music or guitar?
All together.
Wow.
Oh, well, music, since I was 6, that would be 1963.
Wow.
So we can do the math there. That's
50 years.
55 years. But guitar, I've only really picked up a guitar for the first time when I was 10. That'd be 1967. So that's 51 years. So, and then I didn't actually get, I got some training when I was 11, 12 years old with some folk guitar. At West Music from a clarinet teacher who knew some guitar. And it was useful, it was helpful. But I didn't get real classical guitar lessons until I was 13. I was deprived in life. That's why I tell these little kids that I make them do classical guitar when they're 7 or 8, So I was deprived. I didn't get it till I was 13.
That's hard.
Yeah. It doesn't seem to help them any with my high standards. And I don't really, think there are vast differences among people, based on the continent they come from, biologically, as far as their ability to learn. But I will notice that the kids that I teach, the young kids I teach, whose parents are from Asia, either East Asia or South Asia, like China or India, they do a lot better with a kind of little bit more strenuous activities, mentally. Because I think it's just that, if you're the only child from Chinese immigrant, brain drain, professor, doctor, scientist, parents, or whatever, and the only child, they're just expected to work a whole lot harder.
Right.
And they're less likely to find sports to be important, And I don't know, I mean, people are really into sports in school and everything like that, but then, you know, the boys who play football get concussions and messed up knees and things like that. And in the long run, you know, if you are like in the math team, you know, and the chess club, you know, then these are like, you develop this kind of more active mind that might suit you, you know, as far as the trajectory of your life. And just speaking of the people I knew in high school, because I'm from here, you know, pretty much. I mean, I moved here, and I started elementary school. I started kindergarten in Iowa City, at Hoover School, a long time ago. So the guys I knew who were maybe football heroes on the football team, you know, they didn't really play football, as far as I know, after high school. And I did know, I met other people who who played football on the small college teams. Like, I mean, I teach in a couple of small colleges, and they have football teams, and these are not, I don't think anybody from these colleges is ever going to go to the NFL and stuff. So, and you know, one kid in high school was a Hawkeye basketball player, but he kind of flunked out, you know. He was a basketball star in high school, but when he was in college, he didn't, you know, make it past sophomore year, you know. So I keep thinking, yeah, so some of the immigrant brain drain parents, you know, their kids, well, you're not going to be on the football team. You're not going to be, you know, okay, sure, you can be on the swim team, so you can learn how to swim and stuff and get in shape. But you know, we're going to take you to mathnasium on the weekends and whatever like that, you know, and we're going to get, and then we're going to, and then if you don't make it, you know, the test to be in AP classes, you know, then you know, you're gonna, I'm not gonna speak to you, you know, for a week and stuff like that. So there's this sort of, so those kids do really well,
Right.
with classical guitar and chord theory and stuff like that. And I don't think they're any more intelligent. Oh wow, I've learned up a half a show already. I don't think they're any more intelligent than like those of us who've been here for many generations.
Right.
It's just that, you know, we don't care. And I would submit that my German and Irish ancestors, they tried really hard when they got here,
Right.
you know. They worked really hard, and reading about the Irish miners in Butte, Montana. There's this thing at the Ellis Island or whatever. They say, don't even bother to stay in New York. We'll just get straight on this train, and we got jobs for you in Montana. Those guys didn't make it past 40 because they inhaled this sort of silicon, like crystal stuff
Right.
down there, and they would die, you know. And they knew they were going to do it too, but they would just make sure that they had as many kids as possible, so some of them would survive, and then they wouldn't have to go down the mine.
Right.
So it's not that we're lazy. It's just that, you know, your great-great-grandfather sacrificed his life so that you could, like, live a life of leisure. And so, anyway, never. I didn't say that. I didn't say any of that stuff. Okay. All right. Okay. So. All right. So. After midnight. DJ Commando. Hey.
Hey.
Hey, you're back, yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody put a camera on that guy there. So I heard you had your show on Thursday.
Yes, sir.
Your flagship, your premiere, what do you call it? The
Debut.
Debut. That's the word I was looking for. It's a French word. Debut.
Debut.
Yeah. Debut. Anyway, sorry.
Yes.
So yeah. So how'd it go?
It was all right, not too bad, not too bad. I think it still could have been a little bit more, touch here and there, but you learn as you go, so it wasn't too bad.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
enjoyed it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So it's going to be every week now, is it? Yeah.
Yep, it's every week. There's one on this Thursday coming up, but it's actually a little earlier because they have the Uptown Bills Upstairs event. So
Yeah.
so
That's
it'll be at 6 o'clock this Thursday.
okay. So you going live, or you taping this? Or
We're going
recording?
live.
We're going live. Yeah. I tell you, I used to do a show back in 1990.
Mm-hmm.
That was, it was on tape. This is back. We still say tape, but I mean the tape is long. We use tape to keep duct tape to keep the studio together. But it was back in the tape days, so it was analog. But I would do the show, but then I have to like edit it and get it all together. It's a half-hour show about how to play guitar.
Mm-hmm.
We have the humorous sketches, and we have the remote things, where I'd run over the guitar with a big van, or take one out in a cornfield and blast it with a 12-gauge shotgun, and so boosh, like that, And in the snow, it fell over real good, yeah. But that was a long time ago. We used to do that stuff. But anyway, it would take a long time to get those shows out.
Right.
So that when I came back to this in '94, this show that I'm doing now,
Mm-hmm.
it's live. So no matter what happens, the electronics thing, clicks on, and there goes the show.
Right.
That's it. Whether I'm ready or anybody's ready, I've been setting up the show when it went live.
Ah.
Yeah. So
Yep.
I had to work till 4 in Cedar Rapids, and then if anything delayed me, traffic or something, I'd be,
That's the only sucky thing about 5 o'clock traffic. I hate it.
Actually, it was 4:30. That's right. There's no way I could get out of there before 4:30.
Ah.
And so if I
that's
was,
still bad too.
if I was lucky, I'd get here at like 5:10. If I was unlucky, I'd get here like, 5:45 or 5:48. And then I have this stuff in my car. I have to unload it. And anyway, yeah. So that's good. So, okay, yeah, live show, and you got a Fieldhouse hoodie on there.
Yes, I do actually. Yes.
Yeah. So
And
you,
it's Iowa City one too, because we got one in Cedar Rapids as well.
yeah, I know. Yeah, you got the so you well when you come down here, you got to get
I got to represent when I come down here.
Yeah, you better. Yeah. People.
I don't want to get jumped on or beat up or anything like that.
Yeah, I know. My niece had a couple of she's a Hawkeye, but she took in college. She took a couple of courses in Madison, Wisconsin, at the university up there, and she wore her Hawkeye stuff, and people gave her a bad time.
Oh,
Gave her a
wow.
really hard time for it. She's wearing a Hawkeye, and I don't care.
I don't either, man, because hey, we did what we had to do. We didn't do what we did in the Rose Bowl or whatever, but oh well, we still made it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So it's all like, can't we all work together? And like, I don't care if you wear a Cornhuskers, hoodie. I don't care. It's fine with me. I'm broad-minded. But,
Right.
Well,
So I do have to ask the
Yeah.
overalls. What
oh yeah. Well, that's my thing.
what's the style going on today?
Well, this is a fashion statement, and there is this temptation for me to just dress like this all the time, because I've been, I've worked and I wouldn't say lived, hung out. I stayed in a hotel for 10 days in Manhattan. I was off Broadway for something, project, and I was spent a lot of time in San Francisco, and I've been to L.A. some. I've been to Paris, France, for a
Nice.
week or something like that.
I want to go to Paris so bad.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting place. It's but I haven't been there for a long time. It's been like a long time. But I was there when I was a kid, and went back as an adult and played in a bar in Paris somewhere, a little dive bar somewhere.
Nice.
But you see, the thing is like when you're in New York, and if you say you're from Iowa, they figure you're like this. I mean, without this hat, of course. This is kind of more uptown, But so there's that. I'm dressing. It's like if you want to wear the Fieldhouse. Well, this is your Fieldhouse, hoodie. I'm wearing my Iowa overalls,
There you go.
So I have it. I've had these for long. These are Oshkosh Bagosh. I don't know if you know that. Like all.
I've
one-
got a pair.
Yeah, well, like all the overalls except one brand from Oklahoma. I've heard from a guy who only wears overalls that I run into from time to time, named Ralph. But he said there's only one company that's still making overalls in the U.S.
Uh-oh, who's that?
I don't know, but they're in Oklahoma somewhere.
Ah, okay.
And I don't remember. I don't think he even told me the name. I might have written it down. But so these are actually old. These are from probably made in Wisconsin, probably Oshkosh. That's right.
Probably. Right.
But anyway, and they're nicely faded naturally from. And I've actually worked in these overalls before. Like But the other thing is like, and this is a concept I've said earlier in the show. I'll say it again because I want people to know it. The idea of overall guitar. So the idea, okay, so if you really want to play guitar, if you really want to like really be able to do it and really be, because a lot of guitar players feel like phonies. There's the imposter syndrome,
Right.
which some people say that Trump has it because you say, well, I'm not qualified for this, and I know it, but this is and I'm like in denial or whatever your issues are. And there are people who do that for all kinds of things, say, well, what am I doing? So a lot of guitar players have imposter syndrome because like they can't read music like other musicians can. They, they don't have any like formal training, or they're not, because if you have formal training, it doesn't mean you can't like jam
Right.
or do whatever you do. It just means that you have had teachers who had other teachers, and this is a continuum that goes back, centuries at least, maybe thousands of years. People are. So so I have some training, classical guitar training, and I still use a method book that came out, pieces from method books that came out in the 1830s, 1820s, and stuff. And we play music that was composed in the 1700s, the 1600s, 1500s. So. And this system of notation and stuff, it's been around, since 1600, stuff like that. So I'm
Right.
saying is like, you know these things. It's like a continuum. Your teacher's taught,
Right.
Well, a lot of guitar players are self-taught. They don't know, And a lot of people used to tell me, so, well, if you can read music, then you can't improvise, can you? And I say, you mean like if you can read and write, it means you can't talk anymore?
Right.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
actually, I can read and write, and I can talk real good. Sorry, I was,
Some of us can read and write and can't talk at all, really.
yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I mean, it doesn't necessarily. I mean, it's not exclusive. I mean, you can talk, right? But you can read and write, right?
Right.
So okay, so you can do all this stuff. So I say if you can read music, it doesn't mean you can't find the groove.
True.
It actually means you have more stuff at your disposal, and maybe you've played more stuff. And I don't say that. I was doing that. I mean, I was giving a bass guitar lesson before I came here, so
Yes.
I do bass guitar. But my bass playing is informed by rock and blues and boogie woogie and funk and stuff like that, because I listen to stuff and I say, I can do that. But then it's also informed by like Mozart, because I played string bass in the orchestra, so we're playing. Mozart had some really good riffs. People are still talking about him. He's been dead since the 1700s, But he's,
Hey, it doesn't hurt to take, a little bit of, pieces from different people and just create your own style and your own
Right.
feel of it. So that's what I like about music. It's like you just said, there's not one, method or way that you can learn and just be you and be creative about it. You can actually get out there and be like, okay, I'm going to do like Tom. I'm going to take a little bit of his style and kind of freak it a little bit. Kind of
Right.
funk with it a little
freak it. I like that. I'm going to use that. See, now I just borrow from you.
See what I'm saying?
I'm going to freak it. I'm going to freak it. But see, so the notion is, okay, so my idea about how to be a guitar player is what a classical guitar player knows. Because classical guitarists read music, they think about technique, and they also plan out what they're going to do. They plan out a fingering. So you're doing something that's really difficult. Maybe it's written by Bach for harpsichord. It was a keyboard, But you play on the guitar, it translates that you can do it,
Right.
but you're going to have to pre-plan it. You can't just like hit it, right? If you're going to play on the harpsichord, you got to pre-plan it too, because you can't just like jam on it. And because I know this, because I can jam on stuff too, But then, so all that classical guitar stuff. But they know the jazz guitar thing, because the jazz guitar players, a lot of times they just do a lead sheet. You got a melody, you got the chords, and you do whatever you want with it. You got to invent it yourself. You got to know your theory, your chord theory, how to do things like I like these. I like jazz chords. I mean, like chords you use in jazz. I mean, I don't know what a jazz chord is, except a chord you use when you play jazz. So, and also you're like you can really like. Bob and weave in jazz, you try to you fit in, you try to do this thing, and things are going on. Maybe it takes a left turn, and you go right along with it. It's not pre-planned. Now, a classical musician can't probably do that. Right. I mean, if you're exclusively classical musician, but see, stuff doesn't bother me because I've played in jazz bands, but I've also done a lot of classical music. And then, of course, you have to know what the folk players do, and I include, like blues and country and whatever, other kinds of folk traditions too. So. We play mostly by ear and by memory, and and you make up your own parts. So my idea, and so my wife should call it an overall guitar. She took a bunch of publicity shots of me wearing the overalls, But so these big old boots I got on, I had some wingtip Oxfords, shoes, shiny black shoes.
Yep.
And I was wearing these very overalls and a similar hat, and then a shirt with a collar, kind of starched, black shirt, but kind of shiny, one of the slightly more expensive shirts, not this long sleeve T-shirt, but, and on our kind of funky porch, it looks kind of rustic, so this is overall guitar. That's what I'm doing, and I'm playing this guitar. As I'm saying, because it's a little bit beat up already, and look how thin that is.
Yeah, I was gonna say, look kind of thin. I'm like,
Yeah. It's real thin. It's like, but it's like a plank of wood. It's like an axe. It's like a saw. It's like, because it's just so dense. It's really hard. It's hurting my knuckles knocking on it. It's a very hard wood, but very thin.
Is it light too because of how thin it is? Is it kind of light, or does it still got a little heaviness to it?
It's a little heavy. It's not like a lot of Les Pauls I picked up, but it's very dense wood, so it's a very solid wood. So it's heavy, wood.
Right.
But the guitar is really skinny, so it's not bad, but it's I don't know what you call that kind of music.
Well,
Call you
Listening.
to put that like to rest, like that
Well,
just
yeah.
like ease your like body type playing.
We're supposed to let your mind wander when you think of music. Like,
Oh yeah.
during one part of it, it sounded like out of an old western or out of an old Clint Eastwood western. You know.
well, there's a like when I do this. Here they go. Sorry, it's a hell of
You
fun.
got the overalls for it, so.
Well, I'm supposed to be wearing the cowboy boots,
There
maybe
you go.
some chaps or something.
Right.
But
I also heard a little bit of Stairway to Heaven in there too.
well, see, the stairway. It's
Some
just like
clapping in there too.
that's a descending pattern. You know,
Yeah.
you gotta understand the Stairway to Heaven. You know, that was actually they actually copied it from somebody else's song. They didn't actually write it. You know, it's like yeah, they were. Early on, they were like a cover band. Unfortunately, they didn't give anybody credit in their albums. It was a real, yeah. So it's actually an English like folk song thing that there's some folk singer that they.
Yeah, so the truth comes out.
Yeah, the truth comes out.
I didn't know that about them. That's
I did not know that.
yeah.
Yeah. Just look it up. Just go ahead and look it up on the internets or something about, you know, did Led Zeppelin plagiarize their early songs? You know, a question mark, and you'll get all these articles about it. And you can even go. Some people do this research so they actually show you. You get a clip from the Led Zeppelin,
Right.
and they have another clip, and then the date it was recorded. They have a clip from another record that came out years before.
Okay.
They even stole something from Joan Baez, believe it or not. So, anyway, it's kind of interesting. But you know,
Okay.
but they were naughty boys, and
Yeah, I see that.
but there's a thing. I've been meditating on this because I'm sort of like gravitating more to like being some sort of a jazz guitar player lately. But I got to keep that. I shouldn't be announcing that because I want to keep that secret because there's this thing about like people say they like jazz, but they don't really, you know. And so if you're trying to like gig, so okay, like I think I told this joke last week, but I've been meditating on this joke. Two jazz guitar players run into each other in the street, and then one guy says to the other, say, "Hey man, I just bought your new record. It's awesome." And the guy says, "Oh, so that was you?" Yeah. See.